So, sir, you infamously had said earlier this year that you were planning to bring hell to Boston. Over the last couple of months, we've seen all sorts of detainments playing out. Is that what you meant by hell to Boston, and is mission accomplished in your eyes?
No, when I said I was bringing hell to Boston, that was right after, that was a speech I made, and it was right after I read a list of illegal aliens who were convicted of sexually assaulting children. So, and these aliens, illegal aliens, were arrested off the streets in Massachusetts, some in Boston. So I said I was going to bring hell to Boston. What I meant by that is the men and women of ICE, along with me, are going to bring hell to illegal aliens who rape children. And that's what it was, and we did. We went there and we arrested uh, uh, child sex predators. We arrested TDA members, trained Iowa members. So we arrested a lot of public safety threats during that operation. But the operation continues on day to day in the state of Massachusetts. So is operation completed? No, we're still looking for the worst of the worst in the entire state of Massachusetts.
You had also said that, when seeking out the worst of the worst, there are going to be collaterals. So can you tell me really what you mean by that? And what happens when collaterals are children?
Well, first of all, yeah, I said from day one, if you want to be a sanctuary state, you want to be a sanctuary jurisdiction, that means you don't let us into the jail. That means you don't allow ICE to access to the jail. You don't honor our detainers. So rather than working with ICE, so one agent can arrest one bad guy in the safety and security of a jail, which is safer for the alien, safer for the agent, of course, and safer for the public, they release him back in the community. So we're going to do our job. We're going to the community to find that bad guy. And when we find him, many times they're with others. Others that are in the country illegally, may not be a criminal target, but in the country illegally, they're going to be arrested too. Because we're not going to tell ICE, unlike the last administration, we're not going to instruct ICE, ignore the oath you took, ignore the immigration law, you're going to walk away from illegal alien. We're not going to do that. So when sanctuary cities force us into the neighborhood, they're going to get exactly what they don't want. More agents in the community and more collateral arrests, because we will find those collateral arrests during our operations.
And what is the protocol, though, if a child is present during one of these operations? What happens to the child?
Every situation is different. It's up to the parent. It's up to it's parenting 101. They got to make a decision. Now, there's been stories out there that ICE deported U.S. citizen children. We have not deported U.S. citizen children. It's illegal to deport a U.S. citizen. We simply gave the parent a choice. When you're in the country illegally and you choose to have a child here, you put your family in that position. Not me, not the administration, not President Trump. You made the decision to have a child knowing you're in this country illegally, knowing you're in immigration proceedings, knowing that you're going to be ordered removed. So just because you entered the country illegally, you choose to have a child, it doesn't make you immune from our laws. So when the immigration court makes a decision, that parent that you are ordered removed from this country, the parent has to make a choice. Do you take the child with you, or do you leave him here with a relative or another spouse or whoever? That's a parenting decision, not a government decision. We're trying to keep families together. And I'll say this, if we didn't allow the mother to take the child with them, the story today would be ICE is separating families again. We're keeping families together. We're making parents need to make the decisions for their children. They're the best ones to make those decisions.
Can we talk about some of the tactics that we have seen in terms of how people are actually being taken into custody? We have seen windows smashed on car doors, people taken in front of families and surrounded by community members. We have seen people taken from court proceedings in the middle of them. Is this protocol? Is this how these things are supposed to go about?
Well, there's no sense of location policy anymore. We did away with that because ICE was the only law enforcement agency in the country who had such a policy. Now, look, I've been in court many times throughout my career. I've watched fathers get arrested in a court for failing to pay child support. I've seen them get put in cuffs and walked out of the courtroom. So if we have to go arrest a public safety threat or national security threat in a courtroom, that's exactly what we're going to do. There is no sanctuary for criminal threats or public safety threats or national security threats. No sanctuary. So we did away with that policy. Now, does it mean we're going to raid schools like the left is saying? Absolutely not. But if there's an MS-13 gang member that we're looking for, public safety threat, and we're looking for him, but we know right now he's a senior in this high school, he's at that school right now, we're going to go to that school and arrest that public safety threat. Doesn't mean we're raiding the schools. We're going to arrest them at the school along with the local authorities. So again, no sanctuaries for public safety threats and national security threats. We're going to do our job.
To that point about schools, we have heard from various communities that kids aren't showing up to school because they are afraid, regardless of their immigration status.
It's because the news outlets not telling the truth. I'm telling you the truth. We don't raid schools, we don't raid colleges, but I never see that aired anywhere. But I see a lot of the media lying to the American people that ICE is separating families, ICE is sweeping neighborhoods, ICE is raiding schools. It's simply ridiculous. Every person we arrest, here's what you need to understand, every person that we've been arresting is a targeted enforcement operation. We know exactly who we're looking for. We know pretty much where we're going to find them. There's an operational fugitive sheet done in this. A lot of work's done on this targeting. So it isn't like we drive to a neighborhood and look for people different than us. It's just ridiculous. We know exactly who we're looking for. We have an immigration record. We have a criminal record. We have a lot of information on the residents, and maybe some of the reports would say there's children in the house. We got to use extra care on certain things. We pick what time of day that's most safe, not only for the agent, for the alien. So, these are really well-planned operations. So the problem is they put fear in the community. And I knew from day one, they're going to vilify the men and women of ICE. They're going to vilify the men and women of the Border Patrol because they simply don't want immigration law enforced. Well, we're going to enforce it. President Trump was elected by the American people on his number one issue, securing the border and running a deportation operation. We're giving the American people exactly what they voted for. Immigration enforcement, I've been doing this since 1984. It's always controversial. Sometimes it's sad. It's emotional, but it has to be done.
Rumeysa Öztürk, the Tufts University graduate student, returned to Massachusetts recently. She was released pending her court process playing out. Why was she detained in the first place?
I'm not familiar with specifics of that operation. I mean, we arrest thousands of people a day, Border Patrol and ICE. I'm not aware of every specific details of every arrest. I'm not familiar with the specifics of that arrest, but I want to say this. The false media report is ICE arresting people who are exercising their First Amendment rights to protest. That's garbage. We don't arrest, people have a right to say what they want to say. They have the First Amendment rights, but there's a limit to that too, right? I can't walk in a movie theater and yell fire and watch people run out and get hurt. I can't talk to you about, I want to kill the president. There's a limit to what you can say, but it's not what they just said. It's actions in addition to what they said. This president is not going to allow, if you come to this country on a student visa, you have certain responsibilities. You have conditions of that visa, and one of them is not violating law. One of them is not to support terrorist organizations, enemies of this country, and taking actions in support of that. So, not aware of the specifics of that investigation, but that's the overall arching reason for these arrests.
And in terms of due process, what happens if ICE makes a mistake? With hundreds, if not thousands, of arrests being made, it is possible.
Look, again, I've been doing this since 1984. Every law enforcement agency in this country have made mistakes. Mistakes will be made, but what we got to do when those few mistakes are made, we got to deal with it and make sure we take steps to make sure mistakes aren't made again.
But if due process is eliminated, wouldn't that hinder that process to fix the mistakes?
Due process never been eliminated.
Well, it's been discussed, habeas corpus being sidelined in these operations.
Look, I think the president is looking at every option on the table to remove public safety threats, national security threats from this country as soon as possible. Now, we're talking about the Alien Enemies Act. People need to understand, personally, you need to read the Alien Enemies Act. There's less due process on someone removed through the Alien Enemies Act than a Title A, a regular immigration hearing. But it depends what your definition of due process is too. They said none of the aliens removed under AEA had due process. Really? Because I know for a fact thousands of man hours were spent investigating each and every one of these cases, criminal history, immigration history, social media, informant information, surveillance information. A lot of time was spent to ascertain that these people are actually a part of TDA or MS-13, which are designated terrorist organizations now. So that is a matter of due process also, but we need to understand there's less due process for Alien Enemies Act than there is Title VIII. Now, that isn't Tom Homan's decision. That is an administration decision. That's the way the act was written. This act, we didn't make it up. Congress wrote that act, they enacted it, and it was signed by the president. We're using the laws on the books to enforce the laws in this country. We're not making it up. The last administration, the Biden administration, we had several federal court judges say not only are they ignoring the law, they're actually violating the law. We're using every law, every tool in the toolbox to do the best we can to make this country safe again.
Can we expect you in person back in Massachusetts in the coming months over the summer? And will you meet with our governor, Maura Healey?
If she's willing to meet, I mean, I'll meet with anybody. But, bottom line is she continues to say it's not a sanctuary state. And every week I get a report of public safety threats released from counties within that state without notifying ICE. Very serious, people. And will I go back to Massachusetts? Absolutely. We're going to flood the zone. Sanctuary cities. If we can't arrest the bad guy in the jail, we're going to flood the zone, because that's the places we need to target, because we know for a fact they're releasing public safety threats in the community. We see the reports. So where's the biggest concern? Sanctuary cities, because we know we don't have that problem in Florida and most of Texas, because we know our detainers are honored unless public safety threats are hitting the street. But in sanctuary cities, where we know public safety threats are released to the streets every day, that's where we're going to concentrate the resources. That's where we flood the zone. We're going to flood the zone with officers in the community. We're going to flood the zone officers on worksite enforcement. If they don't let us arrest the bad guy in the jail, then we'll arrest them in the community, we'll arrest them at the worksite. Sanctuary cities will get exactly what they don't want.
We have heard from jails that in some cases, the ICE officers hadn't shown up in time, and then legally they cannot hold these people in perpetuity.
I'm not aware of any of those cases, so if you have any specific information, get it to me and I'll fix it. But bottom line is, the argument, well, we're not allowed to hold people beyond the time we release them. We can't hold them for ICE. Then call us before you release them. Make a phone call. Say, hey, this guy can be released tomorrow, and we'll make sure someone's there. If you have specifics where we failed to go there when called, I need to know that, because that should not happen.
And do you have any imminent plans to come back to Boston or Massachusetts at large?
Absolutely.
Do you know when? You personally?
Soon.
Soon. Okay. Very well. Mr. Homan, thank you so much for your time this morning, and we look forward to speaking with you again, and maybe seeing you.
Yeah, you have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.